Developing strategic funding proposals that align project aims with sponsor priorities. When I got the topic and I dissected the terms therein, the first thing that came to my mind was, maybe we really have to understand the importance of funding in the research world so that we will know how much we should invest in developing proposal for funding. The importance of research funds cannot be overemphasized as it drives innovation and knowledge growth. If we are to do new things in the research world, there are needs for us to get funding, acquire research infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Even communicating our research to the world requires that we have some fund to be able to do that, go for conferences, organize seminars, organize webinars, and so on and so forth, because as researchers, we don't want to do research and then it will end up in the waste bin. We still want to communicate whatever we have done to the world. So all this put together require funding. Innovative ideas require that we are able to get some fund to prosecute it, to test it first of all, and then to pursue whatever the idea we are trying to develop. Acquiring research infrastructure, equipment, chemicals, supplies, consumables, and all those things require that we have fund. As researchers also, when we get research fund, sometimes we place ourselves on some incentives. And so it also empowers us economically. It also grows our career, because as researchers in the higher institution of learning and so on and so forth, our career development also depends on how much of research we have been able to develop. Otherwise, one may be stagnated. Research funds also drives valuable research with global impacts, because whatever we do here is also being replicated in other parts of the world, and we want to be sure that what we do has impacts not just within our community, but also in the other parts of the world. To facilitate collaboration, we need research funds, because you want to do research that will endear some other researchers to work with you. You should be able to get funding so that your research will not be completely localized. So having known all this importance, then we begin to see that, okay, does it worth it really to expend energy, to spend time and resources to develop funding proposals that would be able to magnetize funders, and then we get it to our side and be able to fund our research. The need to be strategic in grant proposal is for the fact that when you are strategic in developing your funding proposal, it will increase the chances of securing funds. The reason why we have to do this is because the grant atmosphere is highly competitive. And then when funders are looking for research to fund, they look for those that are highly compelling. They look for those that are focused and aligned with their own priorities, with their own objectives, with their own mission. So when you are applying for fund or you are developing grant proposal, you have to be sure really that your proposal aligns with that of the funder, and you are focused enough, and you are able to persuade the funder to actually fund your own proposal. And in doing all this, simply put, we have to be strategic. And so you also have to convey the project viability. A research funder does not want to put money into a research that they are not sure whether you will be able to complete or not. Or maybe it looks vague. Maybe they look at the team and they are not so sure of the expertise, the experience, and so on and so forth of the team members. They are not so sure of the sustainability. Oh, maybe as you are doing the team, maybe you get to 40% or halfway, and then you quit, or you cannot proceed any longer. So when it becomes blurry to them, they don't want to put their money into it. So we have to convey project viability. So in doing all this, these 3 points, compelling, being focused and aligned, and being able to convey project viability, put together, will increase the chances of securing the fund. And in doing all this, we just have to be strategic. So the strategic grant proposal must be able to catch the funder's interest. And the first thing is that that project goal which is your own goal that you have developed in your own project. After you have identified the problem that you are trying to solve, your goal must key into the funder's objective. If your goal does not align with the funder's objective, the funder will not put their money into it. And so alignment with funder's priority, the mission and aim of the funder is very important. And then your project plan must be specific in design. Putting the research methodology together, you must ensure that the terms, the words, and everything that you are going to use in there is so specific that it is even reproducible in other parts of the world. You must have measurable goals. And so if there are things you have to achieve in your objective, there must be a way of measuring or following those goals. The objectives must be achievable. Your methods must be relevant, not the methods that, okay, they will look at and then they are not so sure whether you'll be able to proceed with it or not, or it doesn't align with the objective. Nobody is sure of, okay, method number 1, does it align with objective number 1, and so on and so forth. By the time we do not have this kind of alignment, it will be difficult to have a strategic proposal. Then you must be time-bound in your project plan. Your project plan has to clearly define the time frame for the project, and that must also align with the timeline that has been specified by the funder. In other words, I have put it that your project plan must be smart, and then you must have identifiable impacts in your project plan. For instance, you must express potential impacts. You must introduce impact evaluation plan, that is, you use key performance indicators, KPIs. Then your project plan must have compelling expressions. You must be persuasive in your language. There must be data that you can use to convince funders that you have been in that sphere for some time. For instance, you may refer to some of the publications that you have had, you may refer to some of the fundings that you have gained before, you have attracted before, and so on and so. In all this, you are trying to persuade the funders to put money into your research. And there must be testimonials if available. Catching the funder's interest requires that you demonstrate collaboration prospects. You don't just sit in your own corner and claim that I will be the only one to do all the research. That's not going to catch funders' interest. You must be able to say that, okay, if you are doing aspect A of the research, you have a collaborator that will be doing aspect B somewhere else, and so on and so forth. This is important because it's going to strengthen the proposal and it's going to convince the funder on the feasibility or viability of the research. Because by the time they see the team, they will be convinced that even if researcher A has limited capacity or limited expertise, researcher B will boost it from some corner, and so on and so forth. So clarity and conciseness of the plan is very important. Make it simple, make a proper layout where you are supposed to have section and subsection so that it will have clarity or make clarity to the funder or the reviewer of the fund is very important. And then use plain language. You don't have to make your language too complicated such that the reviewer will not understand what you have put together. Because the funders most of the time also, by the time they make the call, they also send your proposal to reviewers. Most of the time they will be experts in that area, or experts and non-experts combined, such that they will have a balanced view. Introduce sustainability plan. If your funding will not go through the entire research process, then if we are going to get additional funding, let them know. Risk management, is there something that you won't be able to achieve within that period? Is there an equipment that will not be available, and so on and so forth? Let them know how you plan to get some of those things resolved. So have contingency plan to address potential challenges. Then researching the funder's priority. You have to identify the funder's category. Is it corporate organization or government? Or is it an individual that have also decided to be funding research? What are their priorities? What are their missions and the goal of that funder? So you have to study the previous proposals that have won the grant, and then you have to also understand the grantee's profile. Those are the things that will convince the funder that, okay, your profile is actually convincing enough that you'll be able to deliver on the project. So you have to identify the funder's key priorities. What are those things that the funder is interested in funding, especially the type of projects they are interested in? So information on previous grant recipients may help in this regard. So you have to go to their website, look at the call, go online, get information about people that have won the grant in the past, or interact with them if possible. What are the information that they can give you as key points for you to pay attention to while developing your own proposal? You analyze past grants, just like I did at the end of the talk. I put some websites where you can do analysis of past grants and see how they were able to scale through. So seek clarification from the funder if necessary. So you don't assume you know it all, or the call has specified everything. So if there is need for you to seek further clarification on anything, so please ask the funder. So here I put some of the typical examples of how to address funders' priority. The mission alignment, how you will address it. What is that alignment that you really need to ensure that you make your project to stand with? So the mission alignment, for example, if it's about education, how does your project intend to ensure that it improves the literacy rate of people around you or within a particular community? If the funder is interested in funding projects within a geographic location, you must ensure that your research also focuses on that geographic location. If your funder is interested in funding projects that have demonstrated impact, you must be able to ensure that you have past data that you can showcase that will convince them that your project will have impact. If your funder is interested in pursuing sustainability, you must ensure that your project plan is able to address the kind of sustainability that is being expected. If your funder rather is interested in developing capacity, workshop for people, seminar, and so on and so forth, training people, then you must ensure that your proposal aligning towards that particular priority of the funder. For example, you want to organize workshop for people on how to use computer, then you must ensure, or on a particular IT skills, then you must ensure that your proposal is tailored towards that particular capacity building. Then global and specific issues. What are those things that the funder is interested in? Maybe a particular sustainable development goal. Your project or your proposal must be able to address that particular SDG and convince the funder. So here I spent a couple of time explaining the structure of the proposal, that a typical grant proposal must have the following structure. But first of all, I said that you have to check if the funder has a template. If there is a template provided, you have to adhere with the template. If there is no template and then it's just general, you may have to start with cover letter or what we call a concept note, which will just be like a summary of the whole thing, introducing the project, giving them the total amount that is expected. Under this one, you don't need to break it down or do a detailed budget or budget justification. This is not necessary. Then the team, you have to sell your team to the funder. Then you have to appreciate the funder for the opportunity to apply. Then the project title, abstract and executive summary. Make your title concise. It doesn't have to be too lengthy. Make your abstract or executive summary a brief one, expressing the project goals and the expected outcome, ensuring alignment with funders' priority. Your outcome, your goal, and everything must be such that the funder is looking for that. Introduction or background of the research. The background to the problem, the justification leading to that proposed project. You have to demonstrate your understanding of the field. What have you done in that area before? What is your strength? How well are you current in those things that other people have done in that area? What is the knowledge gap we are trying to fill? The importance of the project, and then the relevance to the funder's mission. All these have to be stated under your background or the introduction. The statement of research problem. Why does the research need to be conducted? What are the research questions? If you are able to list the research questions, then you will be able to also talk about the goals and the objectives of your research, because your objective must be able to address the research question. Your objectives are like the answers to each of the research questions. So what does your project set to achieve? Do you have short-term goals? Do you have long-term goals? What are the objectives? Each objective must be able to address a particular research question. Once there is a gap, the reviewer will put question mark. The structure of a typical research grant proposal. Again, research design and methodology. Your method must be clearly spelled out such that it will be reproducible. So funders also want to see which method will lead to the achievement or attainment of a particular objective. If that is not done, there is a gap, and then funders will be asking questions or reviewer will be asking questions. Significance and innovation. Impact of the research contributions to knowledge must be clearly spelled out. Then the timeline and framework using Gantt chart, for instance. And then when you are also expressing your timeline, you ensure that each timeline is able to address a particular objective. Objective number 1 will be achieved within the first 3 months. Objective number 2 will be achieved within the second 3 months or the first 6 months, and so on and so forth. The budget is also important. Detailed financial plan with justification. Why do you want to request for so amount? For what purpose? Alignment with project activities. Your budget must have an alignment with your research design. Evaluation. Outline the key performance indicators for the project. What are those measurable, achievable goals that you want to put in the plan? Then you have to showcase the research team. I'm a chemist, for example. If I'm synthesizing a new chemical that we have application in medical line, I should be able to have a member in my team that is from earth sciences or from microbiology or from medicine and so on and so forth. If I don't do that, then there will be an issue. Then references are important, appendices if available. And so this is where I said that some of the things that are put together are like, okay, references from one side or the other, general knowledge. And then so I put some of these useful sites together where we can as well even look at some of the grants that people have written and they have won. And then some of the reports from reviewers for grants that scaled through and for those that failed. For those that fail, what are the pitfalls? Can we learn from it and then be able to do our home better? So I've put some of these useful sites together. In conclusion, I said developing strategic funding proposal requires that the funder's priority are identified. Once your home project aim does not align with what the funder wants to do, the funder is interested in funding a research in Europe, you are doing your research centered on Africa, then it is a no-go area. So what are those things that the funder sets to fund, and then does it align with your own aim and objective? Project aims match the funder's priority, ensure that the team is capable, and justify the capability of the team. The research plan and sustainability is important. Lay out your method, ensure your method speaks to each of the objective or the achievable goals, and then you have a justifiable budget. You don't put an item in the budget that does not have anything to do directly or indirectly with the research activity. Acknowledgement, I appreciate Research Academy. Dr. Issa Fadilullah has reached out to me a couple of times. Dr. Koledoye reached out to me a couple of times. Dr. Kazim Olalekan Kokas has been the one linking us together. And at the point, it looked like I just went mute. So I must apologize that was actually due to my engagement in the university here. So I have over 35,000 students to oversee their activities and their affairs every day. So at every single minute of the day, there is an issue to attend to. So when it looked like I kept quiet, I still had it in mind. I felt like I could dodge the webinar, but then Kokas will not agree. And so I appreciate all of you. And so on that note, I thank you very much for listening. And we'll be ready to take questions and also listen to contributions.
I want to start from my end with teams that have won grants. You made mention of so many things that are so critical about getting grants. And one of the things that you said was about following up, analyzing past speakers, and also have interaction with them. Yes, I do this a lot, and I observe that sometimes when you interact with some of these speakers, unlike you, who gave us all the secrets, you did not hide any information. So, but some of these speakers, when you interact with them, they will not open up. So how do we go from there? That's number one. Especially guys who have won this. If you interact with some of these white guys overseas, when to give you tips, they open up. But for us in Africa, many of us will not open up. That's number one. Then number two, I also observe and I noticed that budgeting is one of the critical aspects of proposal writing, because most times they will not even give you the templates that this is the percentage to give to this is the percentage to give to this. And many a times, if you are not very careful, you can under budget your proposal or over budget your proposal. And how do we go about it? Is there any standard for it? For example, for personnel incentives that will come to the member of the team, do we have a specific percentage or a range of percentage for it? For data collection, is there any percentage for it? And so on and so forth. And for dissemination too, is there any percentage for it? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I would like to ask, which areas can we get some of these grants? Like, is it through websites or through links? How can we actually get these grants? Thank you, sir.
My question is, I'm a younger researcher doing my PhD right now, and I haven't written any research grant. And I don't know if there are some grants for beginners like us. For me, I don't mind about the money, but just to get that exposure where we can start from, and then maybe you get that experience so to go forward. That's my question.
My question is on the area of grant writing with collaborators, especially when it has to deal with foreigners. That how do we navigate in this case when you have a call and you see that call requires you to get a collaborator, maybe from a particular region, to actually which one with the lead of the project? Because of course, that call we also call.
In summary, navigating collaborators.
Thank you very much. Let me start with some of the questions raised by Dr. Kolidoye. Started by talking about analyzing past grants proposal by past winners or proposals that have won a particular grant in the past. That's very important because it will give us opportunity of knowing what they did right. Even those that failed, it will give us opportunity of knowing what they have done wrong, especially if we have the opportunity of also getting the feedback that they received. Yeah, it's not impossible that sometimes people want to hide information. Remember that this business is also a competitive one. But as we try to get those that will reveal all the information for us, and we come across those that will hide the information, we don't get tired. We continue to try. We go from A to B and C to D until we get to the one that will give us the information that we need. Interestingly for us also, these days, knowledge is becoming universal. And sincerely, if somebody claims he's hiding something, unless we have not searched very well, it is somewhere out there. And so all we've got to do is to invest our time and resources. Search the internet very well. We will see that thing that the person is trying to hide. It might not be exactly the same thing, but something that we can take up from will definitely be somewhere online. So we shouldn't be discouraged by people hiding information. Budgeting. I decided not to really put the breakdown percentages for each aspect of budget because when I think there was a time somebody mentioned to me, I will have like 15 minutes to talk, really. And I'm like, okay, let me just take the ones that are important. You see, most of the time, the call or the funder's template will specify the percentage that is meant for each aspect of the budget. A specific example is the National Research Foundation that is being granted by TED Fund in Nigeria here, for example. Each aspect has a percentage. There's a percentage for the equipment, there's a percentage for personnel, and that when you are drawing your budget, you must not overshoot that percentage of the total budget. There's even a percentage for your institution. Maybe that's one of the things I actually missed in the talk that I did not also mention, that your institution will benefit from your grants. But of course, I mentioned something like economic empowerment, which is what the personnel will gain actually. Because sometimes in other parts of the world, your research fund is what pays part of your salaries for the year. And so economic empowerment is important. So certain aspects of the fund will go to A, B, C, D items. And so usually the template of the funder will specify that to you. Then grant information. Where can we get information about grants? How can we know? Is it a website? There are several websites actually. And then as researchers, we should try and launch ourselves into community of researchers. That is where information abides. One of it is where we are today, the Researchment Academy. I want to believe if there is any information about funding anywhere, the Researchment Academy, for instance, will not hesitate to let people know that, oh, guys, you can apply for this. We have a whole lot of even WhatsApp forum, Telegram, and so on and so forth these days, where people can get information. For some of us that belong to one professional body or the other, African Academy of Science, Nigerian Young Academy, South African Chemical Institute, and so on, so many of them. All we've got to do is to be deliberate enough, associating ourselves and launching ourselves into the network that will benefit us and enrich us with information. Apart from we searching online, we also have to belong to those places where people share information. The world is now globalized, and we should not be living in silos. So there are websites that will tell us about grant information. Somebody also asked about, okay, where are the research grants? So to mention a few, there are so many grants rather being sponsored by TWAS. We have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There are so many other foundations that can sponsor research. We have the HIREX. We have the TED Fund in Nigeria, for instance. We have NRF in South Africa. TED Fund in Nigeria funds both national research grants and also the IBR, which we call the Institutional Based Research Fund, which you can get directly from your institution. When TED Fund, we just put a lump sum, and then researchers can get little fund, which can be like, okay, let's get like 5 million to buy ABC and do a little research. But the NRF from TED Fund is actually a big one, or relatively big research grant. At least you can get up to 50 million to pursue long-term research. Somebody mentioned very crucial challenges in getting collaborators. It's not only in the grantmanship, even in the publication world. And in some of the talks that I've delivered regarding publishing in high-impact journals and the like, or writing generally, or researching, I have also mentioned several times that getting collaborators, you have to be deliberate. First and foremost, don't be afraid of people stealing your knowledge. Your knowledge could not be stolen. That's number one. Oh, if I tell him everything I want to do now, they will go and do it and not, oh, no. Okay? Be ready to tell people what you are doing. And then check the profile of the people you want to collaborate with. Do they have credibility? I've collaborated with people around the world and I've never met them. So all we've got to do is to exchange email and then we do our work. Yes, of course, sometimes I do part of my work and then I say, okay, this is part of my work that, okay, I've done this part, okay, combine with your own and let's do the work. There is one that I've been expecting his feedback now for over 6 months. After I have done my part and I've written, I've sent to him. I've not got the feedback. Okay, I have so many other things I'm dealing with. So that is what makes you a professional. So forget about the apathy. Go out there, look for collaborators. Tell them what you want to do. Tell them how you want them to come in. Oh, I read your paper online where you did ABC. I'm also doing this and this and this, and I believe your ABC can enrich this work. Can we work together? So if it's a serious researcher, he or she will respond to you, and then you can start collaboration from there. You can do that collaboration for 5 years and not even seeing each other face to face. Maybe one day you will meet at a conference. Oh, is it you? I've been looking for you. So it is the joy in the research world. And some of us have actually experienced it. So don't entertain apathy in looking for collaborators. Don't feel, because for upcoming researchers actually I've heard of that question several times. What if I tell him everything I'm doing and he went and go and do it? Don't worry about it. It's still your knowledge. Nobody can steal it away. They won't do it as much as you want to do it, because that research idea originally is yours. So I hope I have been able to address some of those questions.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, you spoke something very, very important. I know all the information you've been given are very, very key and germane to what we are expecting. You said Researchment Academy as a body we're supposed to be giving out information regarding funding, grant, and scholarship. We took up that responsibility very recent, and every Wednesday we have a website that we update regularly, and it's open to the general public, where you can get the recent research grant, scholarship, and all of that. We'll be doing that since. Thank you so much, sir. So we provide the link as well. Then we have some other questions here, sir. First one is, I would like to ask for key aspects that brings back funds for research proposal. Then he went further to say what the funders are looking for. What are the key things of which you've mentioned during your presentation, that what are they looking for in a proposal before they can award it? And that is generally what this presentation is all about. Please, if you can lay your hand on the edited video that we will share with our audience later, you will get more information about this. The next one, the question is, do the funders consider one's academic achievement before they provide the funding? Then we have Mangaba. What key messages should be emphasized in the proposal to resonate with the sponsor? I think the major thing is how your proposal is going to align with the sponsor's priority. It's still part of what has been taken care of in this presentation. So please take your time to go through again. You will get more information regarding that. Please, what the researcher should do if his or her proposal have been rejected. I actually asked Professor Okonlade why the network was, why you were off the presentation, sir, that some situations where researchers are fed up because of getting rejected. What's your advice for us?
I want to know if there is any additional or subtractions in the number of things that need to be put together in my proposal to achieve my aim and objectives of my proposal project. So you should watch our video online to get answer to that.
Those are the questions that we have here.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think some of the questions actually have been addressed during the talk. The ones that I picked specifically is whether the academic achievement or the achievement of the applicant has anything to do with the chances of winning the grant. Yes, it has a lot to do with it. Unfortunately, so many of the grants out there will require that you have attained certain level of achievement before they can trust you to be able to deliver. There are also grants for early career researchers that some of us can lay our hands on. I'm still a PhD student, this and that. There are what we can refer to as small grants. For example, there is this institute I belong to, the IIAS, Ife Institute of Advanced Studies, where we run small grants for scientists, those running their PhD. So they can get something like $5,000 or so. So there are some of those, actually. The achievement is important, basically. Then rejection. Well, some of us have experienced rejection at one point or the other, so we don't feel discouraged. We keep pushing. We just keep pushing. You can refine the same proposal and resubmit some other time, perhaps to the same grant or another one. I've experienced rejection even on NRF, TED Fund NRF before, but I keep trying. There are some other proposals, even TED Fund NRF, that we have experienced rejection. We still keep trying, but there are some other ones that we have won. So that is just the way it is. The grantmanship is also similar to the way and manner by which we do our research publication. When you have done a very good work, you submit it to a journal and it's rejected. You don't say because it's rejected, now you are going to just throw it away. You keep trying. Maybe someday, somebody somewhere will understand the concept of that research and they will realize how it is important to the world. They will push it further. So that is it. So rejection should not be a discouragement, but rather it should strengthen us. We just keep pushing forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is a very important topic, and I wouldn't know if we can actually say one or two things regarding those participants joining from educational background. I come from education background before I fully specialized in science, in chemistry, just like our speaker for today. But I know in education, funding might be very difficult or might not be easy to come by. So what advice do you have for young researchers that are seeking fund from education or social science background?
Okay, the advice really, the first thing I will say is for our so-called early career researchers to ensure they have mentors. Mentoring is very important. There is one thing I always tell my colleagues that I have come to realize, that when you do your PhD is the highest academic degree that we obtain anywhere in the world. But when you do your PhD, apart from the research that you will carry out as a PhD candidate, there are certain additional value that you will take away as a PhD candidate. These additional values are things that you will gain in the course of your journey. It could be directly from your supervisor or from people around within the same laboratory or research community. For instance, if your supervisor is a prolific writer, if you are a good PhD candidate and you pay attention to your supervisor, you will take that away from him. You will write like no man's business. If your supervisor has strength in grantsmanship, you have not gone there to learn how to write grants. But then at the end of your program, apart from taking away your PhD, that is another thing you should take away. So all we are saying in essence is that early career researchers need mentors. And sincerely, for the very senior people in this business, we continue to say that they should drive mentor-mentee relationship so that they won't just leave the business and nobody continues the business after them. So mentor-mentee relationship goes both ways. Mentee must be ready and mentor must be patient. So please, let's identify mentors, and then we will be able to achieve all those things that we've been yearning for. So I think that addresses the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Mentors should be ready, while mentees should be patient. Thank you for that important submission. Dr. Akikbemisilu is still here. Would you want to add one or two things to that?
Yes, thank you very much for the privilege. I'm sorry I joined late. I actually went for a verification and I just had to find time to join. The latter part of it that I got was so very, very impactful. What I would like to say for people seeking grants, especially in dry areas like you mentioned, in education and some social sciences, is to collaborate. Some of us had collaborated with people in core sciences or other areas where it is readily more easier to access grants, and the instructional aspect of it may be co-opted. And then the moment you have such a relationship and such privileges, then subsequent grants or application for grants will be easier to access.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Akibemisilu. I have a different idea. I don't want to agree totally with the CEO, Dr. Emisi and Dr. Akibemisilu, that there are disciplines or areas that we can describe as dry area. You have said it all. In fact, the research that people are looking for, the funders are looking for now, researches that are multidisciplinary in approach. So you have said it all. No area is useless. You can collaborate. Education can collaborate with chemistry people. Education can collaborate with people in medicine. The patients too need to be educated. They need education. So when it comes to grants, there is no area that is dry. All we need to do is to develop collaborative approach to it. Thank you so much. We are requesting that you can stand in for the speaker to also share your experience with us with respect to this topic that the speaker was presenting, because we know you have won so many grants and you're also working on so many grants. We want you to share your experience with us on the strategies that we can use, our audience can use to secure funding for their proposals and research work.
Well, thank you, sir. In reality, I've not been opportune to really lead a grant research, but I've be collaborative grant writing research based on which I could make some submission. So for grant winning proposal, one, it could be from the perspective of a researcher. Maybe there is an emerging issue to be addressed, which of course is expected to be relevant in the general society of human, which a researcher can present funding, or it could be a proposal that is designed by funders. The funders might have their focus and objective. Then it may be from that perspective. So whichever one, we must first identify that. If it is from funders' perspective, it means an applicant or a researcher will have to tailor his design to the funder goal or outline. But largely, research that attracts funding is expected to be impactful. That is what is going to bring a change to humanity. It could be in terms of social well-being, it could be in terms of environmental impact. So we need to understand the context of the research and content of the requirements by funders. So meaning that if we want to write a winning proposal, then our introduction must establish the focus of the research. The objectives must be clearly stated using SMART approach. That is, as objectives must be specific, must be measurable, must be achievable, must be relevant either to the objective or overall goal of the funder or what is acceptable to human society, and then must be time bound. So thereafter, then we need to have a research design that is acceptable. That is, for whatever design we put up, it must clearly show that this objective is achievable and without bias, and then it's going to lead to outcome that is scientifically proven. So, and then there will be requirement for budgeting. That is, how much is going to cost, how much is the funder giving. So if our budgeting is above what the funder is giving, definitely we cannot get that grant. So it must be within the available fund from the funder. Then we must have our timeline that shows the specific action that will be taken over time. That is, what action is to be taken, who is taking this action, at what time will it be taken, and then documentation of every step and every outcome. So all these must first be clear, because these are what funders will look at to see whether truly their fund is not going to be wasted, but is going to be used judiciously and to accomplish the purpose for which the fund is meant for, and is actually addressing the research focus that the funder is interested in. So I think that's the little I can add to what is on the floor for now. Thank you, sir.
I want to also add, before I ask question, because we are going to question and answer session now, I want to add this, that because of my little experience about grants, I've also won some little grants, and I've also worked with teams that have won big grants. I know that one of the things that we also need to do when we are writing proposal is not just to write proposal, we have to also monitor, because some of these sponsors, they have websites and you monitor them. There are times of the year when they release call for proposals. You have to monitor. Some we release once a year, some 2 times a year. So we need to be familiar with some of these funding agencies, and we begin to also, follow up with them, monitor them, and align our own objectives